Hi there. Welcome back. First things first, please dim the lights or slip into complete darkness if that's your style. Find the softest pillow, within arm's reach. Done? Good. Before your eyelids get adventurous, tap that subscribe button so you can find this channel again next time. And when morning arrives, slide into the comments and tell me where you're listening from. I'm genuinely curious. Ready? Excellent. Tonight, we explore why yes, you with the climate-controlled bedroom and the sensible mattress, wouldn't last a single day in a Viking settlement. Think of this as a gentle history lesson laced with the occasional draft of humor. Nothing scary, nothing loud, just steady narration to escort you towards sleep. We begin with the morning air. It is the sort that pinches cheeks before your eyes even open. Frost etches delicate runes across the inside of the thatch, a reminder that insulation is, at best, an ongoing experiment. Your mattress is a bag of straw that has already auditioned for the role of dust. You stand, stretching joints that sound like distant drum beats, and shuffle toward the hearth. Embers lurk beneath a quilt of ash, glowing resentfully. You coax them back to life with twigs, then with larger sticks, kindling hierarchy in action. Central heating accomplished, you step outside. The sky's a dull pewter bowl, cliffs of cloud hiding any hint of sun. Snow creaks beneath each boot as if critiquing your weight. A rooster offers commentary in a dialect no one requested. The smell of pine resin mingles with something vaguely goatish. Rural cologne, vintage unknown. First chore appears on a plank list hanging by the doorway. Line 1, fetch water. The well sits 20 paces away, enough distance to question your life choices, but too short to justify procrastination. Lower the bucket, hear the satisfying plunk, then haul, rope scratches palms, water sloshes, threatening to mutiny with every step. Back inside, steam rises as liquid meets warmer air, confirmation that you've slightly improved the interior climate. Breakfast follows water duty, barley porridge thick as loyalty cooks in a copper pot. 3 lingonberries, precious jewels of color, float like decorative buoys in a beige sea. You stir, inhale, and accept that taste is less priority than calories. A neighbor adds a pinch of salt with the ceremony of a priest bestowing final blessings. Conversation meanders. Topics include yesterday's snowdrift collapse, the dubious morality of ravens, and whether someone actually saw lights dancing above the fjord or merely had too much ale. Laughter is sparse but warm, like sparks from green wood, fleeting yet appreciated. Chores resume. You are handed a wooden pail and directed toward the cows. Their gaze is ancient, their breath visible. Milking is less a technique and more a negotiation. Squeeze, release, dodge, tail, repeat. A stray hoof reminds you that reflexes were not optional equipment for Viking farmers. When the pail is half full, you retreat with dignity intact, and clothes marginally so. Language practice occurs midday. An elder recites verb conjugations, to row, to trade, to raid, all sharing suspiciously similar endings. You attempt a phrase meaning pass the butter, but instead invoke a blessing on someone's left elbow. The mistake is met with good humor, or so you hope, given the laughter's volume. Progress is measured in reduced misunderstandings per sentence. Lunch hovers nearer dusk than noon. Fish soup, again, simmers in an iron pot. The broth is thin, but each sip carries the faint memory of the sea. Bread returns, still dense, still determined to test the limits of dentition. A sliver of goat cheese appears, welcomed like a diplomatic envoy from Flavor. Post-lunch features carpentry. The fish drying rack lists at a worrying angle thanks to last night's gusts. You and two neighbors heave it upright, then drive hand-forged nails that curve toward their own destiny. By the third nail, your forearm registers as semi-solidified porridge, appropriate symbolism perhaps. A messenger skis in from the neighboring valley. His beard is laced with frost, his news with possibility. Grain supplies remain steady, iron prices inch upward. Someone's cousin saw a whale skeleton washed ashore, now serving as impromptu scaffolding for a new shed. The settlement digests this intelligence, each fact stored for future strategy meetings conducted around smoldering hearths. Mid-afternoon sun slides behind a slate curtain of clouds. Shadows stretch long enough to trip over. You volunteer for bellows duty at the smithy. The forge roars to life under your rhythm. Inhale, pull, exhale, release. Sparks rise like restless fireflies. Iron glows where the hammer persuades it into nails, hinges, and occasionally abstract art. Goats are herded indoors as snow begins its evening rehearsal. They complain, as goats do, but settle near the wall where warmth lingers. You sweep errant straw into corners, listening to the distant wind debate door frames. Dinner aromas claim the longhouse. Mutton, onion, the slow elegance of time. Eating is communal, plates passed hand to hand. Ale flows, thinner now, yet morale remains buoyant. A toast to tomorrow's market trip. Another to the blacksmith's newly minted hinges. A third to nobody in particular. Just the act of toasting as a sign of survival. Wooden bowls clack softly. Domino applause for the day's persistence. After dinner, dice return. Goat knuckle cubes tumble across the table, drawing cheers, groans, and the occasional mathematical dispute. Bets remain small. Dried peas, spoonfuls of honey, bragging rights for chores skipped. Fortune favors locals. Visitors console themselves with stories rather than winnings. A skald rises, taps a staff, and begins a saga sprouting from yesterday's rumor about aurora lights freezing. Heroes pursue an icicle that sings prophecies, only to discover it's merely a very opinionated icicle. Laughter mingles with yawns. Stamina and curiosity wrestle to a draw. Candles shrink, casting longer shadows for shorter sentences. Lamplight dwindles. Embers collapse into quiet red islands. Boots cluster near the hearth. Blankets anchor bodies to benches. Outside, snow deepens its hush, promising fresh challenges for dawn's rebooted storyline. For now, the settlement settles. Tasks postponing themselves until the sky reloads sunlight. Morning returns with a pale sky and air crisp enough to etch thoughts into. Market day has arrived, and the longhouse rustles earlier than usual. Traders will set up stalls by the riverbank. Lateness means mild disgrace and fewer turnips. The Jarl's steward recites the packing list: wool, dried herbs, carved combs, and one experimental barrel of pickled herring improved with juniper berries. No one knows if the berries help, but optimism is lighter than another barrel. Sleds are loaded. Runners hiss over fresh snow as you guide the first sled toward the river trail. Dogs pull with seasoned enthusiasm. Their breath forms twin plumes, marking each exhale like punctuation across the white page. Behind you, another team follows, arguing amiably about whether juniper counts as a vegetable serving. The trail curves through stands of birch. Sunlight filters down in columns pale as watered mead, striking snowflakes that drift sideways on a lazy breeze. Icicles dangle from branches, chiming softly whenever the sled brushes past. Nature's wind chimes, tunable only by climate. Midway, you pause at a frozen creek. The ice sings intermittent notes beneath weight. Tradition requires everyone to stamp once, then proceed after listening. Stamp, pause, silence. Good enough. The convoy glides forward, trusting physics and folklore in equal measure. Approaching the riverbank, colorful tents pop against snow like spilled pigment. Traders from valleys south display bolts of linen, while coastal fishermen hawk barrels of cod that smell exactly as committed as cod can smell. The air carries a medley: smoked fish, pine tar, distant goat, and possibility. First business, wool exchange. You barter bundles of fine-spun yarn for 2 ingots of iron weighed on a scale so skeptical it requires extra reassurance. The merchant counts out silver coins stamped with a king's face who has not reigned here for 20 winters. History moves, coins linger. Next, the pickled herring experiment. Sample bowls are set out. Locals nibble cautiously. One eyebrow lifts, then another. Verdict: surprisingly interesting. A coastal trader offers 3 small barrels of lamp oil in trade, reasoning that anything edible in winter holds value beyond flavor. Deal accepted. With business concluded, exploration begins. You wander past a tent displaying amber beads glowing like trapped sunsets. Next stall, iron nails arranged by length, each labeled with a price and a silent judgment of your carpentry skills. Farther on, a storyteller performs snippets of saga for copper coins. Cliffhangers, sold 1 verse at a time. Midday meal consists of flatbread spread with whale oil butter, an acquired taste nobody remembers acquiring. Soup bubbles in a cauldron blackened by travel. Ingredients: turnip, onion, something the cook claims was once a carrot. You sip. Warmth overrides doubt. Entertainment follows commerce. An impromptu contest forms. Who can guess the weight of a frozen cod within 1 handful? Wagers are simple. Dried apple slices, a length of dyed thread, or bragging rights measured in weeks. You guess generously and come within a fish fin of victory, earning a polite clap and half an apple slice. By late afternoon, clouds knit together, hinting at snow. Sleds are reloaded, trades tallied. The journey home begins, heavier in cargo, but lighter in worry about winter supplies. Dogs find their rhythm. Bells tied to harnesses jingle a minimalist tune. Snow starts as flurries, then thickens into pages of white, rewriting the landscape with each gust. Visibility narrows. You follow the lead sled's lantern swaying like a cautious firefly. Every few minutes, the convoy stops. Each driver checks harnesses, offers dogs a word of encouragement, and breathes clouds into stiffening air. At last, village roofs emerge, blurred outlines but unmistakable. Children rush out, catching snowflakes on tongues and asking if the whale oil butter counts as dessert. Goods are stored. Iron ingots stacked near the forge, lamp oil sealed tight against inquisitive goats, amber beads entrusted to the Jarl's ledger. Success is measured in full storerooms and tired smiles. Night settles again, bringing the hush of accomplished tasks. Stew simmers, enriched by a suspiciously generous splash of lamp oil's cousin, because experimentation never sleeps. Toasts rise to the dogs, the traders, and the cod that bravely endured weight-guessing fame. Laughter fills gaps where cold once lurked. As embers dim, you reflect on the day's tally. Miles traveled, bargains struck, snow navigated, and lessons learned about cod mass estimation. Tomorrow waits, bringing new chores and perhaps new visitors with news of distant thaws. For now, boots dry by the hearth and sled runners dream of easier seasons. The next dawn greets you with wind sharp enough to shave ambition. Overnight, the temperature plummeted. Frost now grips every timber, every nail, even the thoughts behind your eyes. Stepping outside, you feel air so brittle it might shatter if spoken to too loudly. First priority, the livestock shed. During cold snaps, goats conspire to nibble anything resembling rope, an instinctive plot against structural integrity. You push open the door, a puff of steam rushes out, scented unmistakably goat. One clever animal has already loosened a support lash. You retie it with fingers numbed into wooden approximations. The goat offers a bleat that sounds suspiciously like laughter. Water becomes a problem. The bucket from yesterday stands frozen, handle locked in place. You chip ice, cursing gently, never loudly, the air might break. By the time a usable hole forms, fingertips burn, then tingle, then shift to an alarming absence of sensation. Fresh water finally sloshes free, victory measured in each reluctant splash. Breakfast tries to help. Porridge thicker, saltier. Someone sacrificed a precious shard of smoked bacon into the pot. The aroma lifts collective mood by 3 or 4 degrees. Still, the longhouse feels like living inside the last exhale of a glacier. Breaths fog, bowls steam. Optimism sweats briefly before refreezing on the bench. Work resumes beneath a sky the color of raw iron. You volunteered, or were volunteered, to help quarry blocks of hard snow for reinforcing the windward wall. Snow blocks are surprisingly cooperative. Cut, lift, stack, repeat. Each block weighs like a mildly offended sheep, and soon cheeks burn with exertion more than cold. The wall grows, a temporary bulwark against gales still plodding offshore. Midday brings no warmth, yet chores persist. A pine nearby surrendered to wind. It lies half buried in snow, branches bowed like exhausted wings. Axes chop off limbs, then divide the trunk into manageable lengths. Manageable, meaning 2 adults per log. 3 if dignity is optional. Bark flies, sweat forms ice jewels on brows. Progress counts in heartbeats more than feet. Lunch is a cold affair. Strips of dried reindeer and a sliver of cheese half frozen, chewed to the tempo of chattering teeth. Nobody complains. Complaints risk more open mouth time, and open mouth time invites wind inside. Conversation limits itself to eyebrow gestures and monosyllables. Cold? Jab. Fire? Soon? Afternoon assignment. Clearing roof snow before weight becomes structural opinion. Up the ladder once again, knees creaking. You push snow in the heavy slabs, which slide off with low thuds, puffing clouds on impact. Halfway through, wind shifts, blowing loose flakes back into your face. A white curtain drawing itself across vision. Persistence outlasts weather. Roof stands lighter, though your arms disagree. Evening approaches with purple shadows stretching across drifts. The blacksmith calls for helpers. Iron tools left cooling last night now need reheating, lest they crack from thermal tantrums. Bellows pump again, forge roaring like a captive dragon. Orange glow feels luxurious, almost decadent. Cheeks thaw, then tingle painfully as blood returns. Such is the price of temporary comfort. Dinner appears as stew thicker than conversation. Turnips, onions, and tiny flecks of something once called meat bob in aromatic haze. Ale remains rationed. Tonight, It tastes of wood smoke and survival. A collective toast to roofs still standing, fingers still attached, and goats still merely plotting. Bowls empty. Weariness settles like new snow. Stories tonight lean toward cautionary tales. One recaps a winter 10 years past when frost claimed half the barley and a careless traveler who slept outside after too much ale. Moral delivered, the room falls quiet except for logs shifting in the hearth, sending sparks upward in lazy spirals. Night thickens. Wind prowls around corners, sniffing for weakness indoors. You settle into blankets, muscles humming low protests, mind replaying the day's tally. Snow wall built, roof cleared, fire tamed, life continued. Outside, winter rehearses new verses, but inside, embers glow. Small, stubborn refusals to surrender. Spring thaw finally loosens the fjord's icy grip. Water channels reappear, dark and restless, carving paths between lingering sheets of white. The Jarl declares it fit to ready the longship for summer voyaging, trade if fortune smiles, raiding if negotiation frowns. Preparations begin at first light. The hull, dry docked all winter, receives inspection. Tar seams are probed. Any gap wider than a grain of barley earns a patch of pitch and flax tow hammered by wooden mallet. Oars are sanded, handles wrapped with new rawhide to spare palms from blister mutiny. Rations must be gathered, barrels of smoked fish, sacks of flatbread, and 1 cask of weak ale, enough to discourage stagnant water complaints. The healer contributes bundles of dried yarrow and willow bark for fevers and wounds yet unimagined. A single goat is selected to travel. Its job, produce milk, complain, and, if necessary, become stew. Crew assemble at the water's edge. Helmets gleam beneath overcast sky. Spears stand like larch saplings in practiced rows. Shields, rimmed with iron and boasting fresh paint, stack along the gunwale, colorful promises of collective stubbornness. The last item loaded is the raven banner, furled for now but keen to sniff salt wind. Launch is a communal heave-ho, rollers placed, ropes taut, everyone pushing until wood meets water with a sigh older than language. A cheer rises, half excitement, half relief. The hull still floats. Oars dib, catching rhythm quick as pulse. The longship heads down fjord, prow slicing meltwater like warm knife through winter's memory. Days at sea adopt their own calendar. Rowing ships, sun-up crew, sundown crew, and midnight crew for those who owe favors to the Jarl. Meals, dried fish softened in seawater, flatbread with dreams of butter, and goat milk rationed by cup and complaint. Sleep, claimed in cloaks, wedged between cargo and next oar bench, while the hull hums lullabies in plank language. On the third dawn, coastline unfamiliar rises ahead. Low hills, a ribbon of sandy beach, smoke threads hinting at distant hearths. The steersman taps the rail, potential trading post or, if luck sours, a target begging negotiation by axe. Raven banner unfurls, snapping once, announcing intentions both polite and conditional. Oars feather, sail drops. The ship glides toward shallows with predatory hush. Diplomacy gets first chance. 2 locals approach, wide eyes, open hands, curious, more than fearful. Gifts are exchanged, a wool cloak for a handful of silver bracelets. Hopes rise that the day might end with stories, not scars. But behind the traders, armed villagers gather, uncertainty growing teeth. Negotiation tilts. A thrown stone decides. Shields up, swords out, voices harden. Skirmish erupts, brief, brutal, messy as fresh ink on wet parchment. Training overtakes doubt. Shield wall advances, spears jab, shouts fracture morning calm. Minutes feel like winters, then resistance buckles. Villagers scatter, leaving the beach littered with dropped courage. Spoils are swift. Grain sacks, bronze tools, a small chest of coins hidden beneath fish nets. The crew works silently, triumph tastes of iron and adrenaline. Yet casualties count, too. One oarsman limps, cut a long calf. Another nursing cracked knuckles. The healer binds wounds with practiced calm, her herbs smelling of forest after rain. Before departure, torches kiss thatch. Standard warning to foes, grim punctuation to the raid sentence. Smoke coils skyward, a dark flag visible for miles. Raven banner dips once in acknowledgement, then crew push off, oars slicing water that now mirrors flames on shore. Silence rides the ship homeward. Victory is measured, not celebrated. Every clang of oarlock echoes the memory of raised shields. Evening sees wounds checked, goods stowed, and silent prayers murmured to whichever gods arbitrate survival. Stars emerge, indifferent witnesses. Eventually, a low cheer. Fjord cliffs looming familiar, settlement fires winking welcome. The longship noses ashore, ropes thrown, hull rests. Villagers gather, counting crews, scanning faces, tallying spoils, adjusting stories already forming for winter nights. Safe return outweighs unease. Goods unloaded, grain into storehouse, coins to Jarl's chest, tools to Smithy's inventory. The goat, miraculously fatter, disembarks last, bleeding triumph over sea and soup pot alike. Feast plans spark. Tomorrow, perhaps. Tonight, exhaustion rules. Bowls of thick stew and watered ale serve as quiet punctuation marks on a day written in risk. Fires burn low, voices follow suit. Snow begins again, gentle this time, as if the sky wishes to erase footprints of war and trade with equal care. Inside, blankets mound, wounds pulse, and the settlement exhales. Another harsh chapter survived, another notch in the long ledger of Viking life. Dawn after the raid breaks with a brittle silence. Snow lies unmarked except for the longship's keel trail and boot prints leading to the healer's hut. Inside, bandages are checked, poultices replaced, and every wound inspected like a badly sewn seam demanding reinforcement. The smell of honey, pine resin, and iron mingles, creating an aroma equal parts comfort and caution. Inventory follows healing. The Jarl convenes council around a low table, coins piled in gleaming stacks. Shares are counted, warriors first, shipwright second, healers third, goat receiving honorary mention. No one questions math performed by the Jarl's wife. Her abacus is rumored to subtract fingers of doubters. Consensus reached. Silver disappears into pouches destined for repairs, dowries, or ale budgets. Attention shifts to hull maintenance. Battle nicks mar planks, arrowheads cling where ash met oak. Shipwrights pry them free, muttering about future leaks. New pitch boils in iron cauldrons, black bubbles reflecting sky and smoke in equal measure. Steam mingles with winter air, drawing children curious about smells that hint at distant seas. A funeral is held for one fallen oarsman. His body, washed and wrapped in linen, rests upon a narrow pyre of cedar and spruce. Family places personal tokens, a worn comb, a bone dice, a length of blue wool he once bartered for. Torches light, flames lick cold air, crackling like whispered memories, ascending. Ash drifts toward the fjord, each ember carrying a sliver of story. Life resumes in practical steps. Winter still governs with frosted scepter. Supplies must stretch. Hunters set snares along animal trails, checking daily for hare or fox. Fishermen carve holes through river ice, dropping weighted lines baited with slivers of last raid's cod. Success is measured by twitch in line, not by boast. Boasts waste breath, and breath carries heat away. An inland trader arrives, sled laden with whetstones and news. He speaks of a neighboring settlement struck by sickness. Barley harvest there rotted in storage. The Jarl listens, weighs words like iron ingots, then commissions 2 goats and a sack of herbs as goodwill. Diplomacy travels faster on full stomachs than on empty threats. Weather intervenes with a blizzard at dusk. Wind howls across rooftops, tugging at thatch like impatient fingers. Snow slants sideways, filling air with frantic whispers. Visibility contracts to arm's length. Inside, shutters slam. Firewood vanishes into flames, hungry for reassurance. Family circles tighten, stories lengthen. Even goats stay politely quiet, as if fearing to distract the hearth from its duty. 3 days pass before sky clears. Drifts reshape paths. Fences hide beneath sculpted curves. Doorways emerge like tunnels bored through sugar. Digging teams form, shovels carved from ash, edges shod with iron. Snow is pushed aside in rhythmic heaves accompanied by jokes too tired to laugh at themselves. Eventually, roofs reappear. Chimneys exhale, and settlement exhales with them. Supplies run low, but not critical. A communal feast is postponed. Instead, households contribute thin stews to a single cauldron, flavor mosaic of collective endurance. Children play knucklebone toss in corners, counting scores by scratches on floor planks. Elders reminisce about winter's harshest still, their tales equal parts warning and boast. Smithy never rests long. Iron captured during raid melts in forge, poured into molds for new axe heads. Each weapon cooled in snow hisses like a snake refusing captivity. Grindstones wheeze as edges sharpen. Sparks leap in a brief protest, then fade into twilight. War and trade demand the same readiness. Only the direction of the ship's prow decides which arrives first. An early thaw teases river ice into cracking applause. Thin sheets drift downstream, clinking like broken glassware at the Jarl's imagined banquet. Nets are mended, floats reattached, and salmon traps prepared. Protein hopes riding translucent currents. Fishermen argue quietly whether last year's traps were set too early. Consensus emerges. This year, they'll be set earlier still. Meanwhile, a scout returns from coastal lookout. He reports sails on horizon, unknown colors, unknown intentions. The Jarl convenes warriors, reviews weapon stock, counts oarsmen fit to pull in haste. Strategy forms like frost on steel, intercept if threat, trade if profit. Raven banner is cleaned, ready to speak eloquently either way. Night before potential departure carries tension. Shields leaned near sleeping rolls reflect firelight like mute witnesses. Some carve runes of protection into oar handles. Others murmur prayers to Njord for fair seas or to Odin for sharp eyes. Sleep comes fitfully, fragmented by dreams of waves taller than memory and prophets heavier than guilt. Before dawn glimmers, drums call crew to shore, armor is slung, helmets donned, hearts hammering their own cadence. Longship slides off rollers with practiced grace, cutting anew into reluctantly thawed water. Oars dip. Voices chant rowing song older than written words, a cadence of belonging to river, sea, and possibility. Morning fog clings low, veiling the water like spun wool. Each oar stroke carves a brief corridor of clarity that closes behind as if swallowing the ship whole. Eyes strain ahead. The horizon looks more rumor than geography. Still, the unfamiliar sails gradually solidify. Streaks of faded red against gray sky, square-cut, merchant-like, but escorted by armed decks. The steersman lifts a hand, rowing cadence slows. Raven banner unfurls higher, its black fabric snapping a sharp announcement across still air. Two foreign vessels alter course, query answered with cautious curiosity. Between prows, the gap narrows until voices can bridge it without shouting, an etiquette favoring negotiation over noise. Parley begins atop gentle swells. A blond trader with silver throat clasp offers greetings in accented tongue, Frankish with North Sea undertones. He proposes exchange, wine from Aquitaine, and bolts of dyed silk for amber beads and walrus ivory. The Jarl's spokesman counters, add steel knives and the deal leans fair. Haggling passes back and forth like a taut rope, each pull narrowing mistrust. Agreement reached, gangplanks extend, creaking their reluctance. Barrels of ruby wine roll across, sloshing promises of warmth. Silk gleams in impossible hues, sunset, storm cloud, and peacock feather. In return, heavy tusks thunk onto foreign deck, and amber glows like trapped dawnlight. Both crews eye the balance, nod satisfied. Trade not raid, profit without blood. Yet vigilance remains. While cargo shifts hands, warriors keep shields near, spears angled low in courteous warning. A rogue wave bucks one plank, a barrel slips, splits, spilling a crimson across timber, a brief omen quickly mopped with shared laughter and spare cloth. Nothing stokes goodwill like free sips of spilled wine. Transactions end. Planks retract. Ships part with raised horns and shouted blessings, each in its mother tongue, half understood, wholly felt. The longship turns north, hull newly weighted with southern luxuries. Oars bite rhythm anew, wind fills the square sail, pulling canvas taut as ambition. The crew relaxes shoulders one notch, but eyes still scan sky and sea for caprice. 2 days' sail passes beneath a canopy of unpredictable spring weather. Sun teases, then hides, rain needles, fog drifts, gulls assemble debates overhead. Nights anchor offshore, one crew member always on watch, raven banner furled around mast like a sleeping serpent. Stars guide course, Polaris stands sentinel, while constellations spin quiet myths across black water. On the third evening, clouds collapse into storm. Wind howls, sail reefed down fast, oars shipped, now stabilizes against rolling fury. Waves mount, peaks capped in white snarls. The longship climbs, pauses, drops into troughs deep as sudden doubt. Water slaps boards, leaks through seams despite winter tar. Crew bail in frantic rhythm. Bucket, heave, repeat. Amid chaos, lightning splits horizon, briefly illuminating faces slick with salt and rain. Thunder follows, a slow drum echoing inside rib cages. Steersman wrestles tiller. Every instinct and past voyage whisper counsel, angle bow, ride crest, avoid broach. Hours blur into one unending contest of wood versus water, will versus wind. Toward dawn, storm grudgingly eases. Swells smooth, rain tapers to drizzle, clouds fray to reveal bruised sky. The ship survives, scarred but floating, crew exhausted but counting each other present. Single oar lost, 2 shields cracked, bilge ankle deep, yet spirit intact. Sunrise brings weak warmth and stronger gratitude. Wet gear drapes over gunwale to dry, cracked shields patched with spare raw hide. Wine ration opened, small cups poured in honor of God's timber and teamwork. Even goat receives a celebratory handful of grain. bleeding approval like distant thunder's amicable cousin. Land reappears as green smear on horizon by midday. Recognized cliffs confirm approach to home fjord. Rowing resumes, steady but weary. Muscles protest yet comply, driven by memory of hearth warmth and stew aroma. Settlement roofs emerge, snow-patched but enduring. Smoke columns rise, quiet signals of continuity awaiting returning wanderers. Docking triggers flurry of tasks. Wine barrels transferred to cool cellar, silk rolls to Jarl's Hall, coins counted under watchful eyes. Storm stories spill quicker than cargo. Each wave height grows with telling. Each thundercrack echoes louder. Listeners gasp, ask for details, then nod. Sea always receives embellishment as rightful interest on survival. Feast declared for following night. Preparations ignite energy across settlement. Huntsmen venture for deer. Fishermen race to set river nets. Bakers revive sourdough starters neglected through winter. Woodcutters haul extra logs. Hall sweepers chase goat droppings with broom discipline. Scald rehearses poem rhymes to fit storm, form, and norm into the same heroic couplet. Evening of feast arrives under clear sky dusted with stars. Long tables line great hall, decked with fir branches and bowls of cranberries steeped in honey. Roasted venison steams beside trout stuffed with wild leeks. Flatbread stack high, ready to scoop stews thick with root vegetables and newfound wine. Laughter climbs rafters. String harp riffs weave through chatter. Even goats seem charmed into civility outside the doorway. Jarl lifts horn, voice carrying over murmurs. Thanks offered to crew, to gods, to timber that bent without breaking, to silk that will trade for futures not yet lived. Horn passed, ale shared, song begins. First low hum, then chorus, then full-throated anthem shaking benches. Storm memory reshaped into triumph narrative, forging camaraderie lasting beyond next winter's chill. The night winds down. Embers glow under benches, mugs empty, eyelids flutter. Outside, Aurora flickers faintly, as though curious about music lines echoing from wooden walls. Snow crunches under departing feet. Tomorrow resumes ordinary harshness. Wood to cut, nets to haul, goats to negotiate with. Yet tonight's feast inks new courage onto collective memory, a bright line beneath the ledger of survival. Seasons roll forward. Winters, springs, and summers stack like wooden shingles on the roof of time. With each turn, whispers drift north from distant courts, whispers of changing laws, stricter tolls, and an unfamiliar cross carried by traveling priests. At first, such talk feels remote as star maps, interesting but irrelevant to chopping wood or mending nets. The first priest arrives in late autumn. He steps from a small clinker-built boat, robes damp from spray, clutching a wooden crucifix like an oar for the soul. His language stumbles, but enthusiasm fills the gaps. He speaks of one God who prefers hymns to sagas and pardons to pillage. Villagers listen, curious whether this deity helps with frostbite or goat theft. The priest offers bread blessed rather than baked. Nobody refuses extra bread, blessed or otherwise. Winter passes, priest remains. He trades Latin prayers for lessons in splitting logs and learns quickly that piety does not spare back muscles. Over hearth smoke and porridge, he explains that kings in the south now levy taxes in coin instead of obedience backed by spears. The Jarl strokes beard, weighing this information like silver on palm. Coin demands counting, spears merely lifting. Spring thaw brings royal envoys with coin demands in person. They cite decrees etched onto parchment bearing wax seals thick as thumb. Toll for every ship, tax on every traded hide, and tithe to the new church sprouting in a nearby valley. Negotiations involve polite scowls, adjusted percentages, and eventually 3 goat hides presented as administrative encouragement. Trade shifts accordingly. Raids grow riskier with fortified coasts and alliances signed under cathedral arches. Merchant voyages prove more profitable and less bloody. Amber fetches higher price than plunder, silk than silver, drenched in sword work. Younger warriors weigh glory against ledgers and discover arithmetic leans toward peace flavored with policy. Longships evolve to cargo nars, beams wider, drafts deeper, sails squared for haul, not haste. Shield racks removed, replaced by extra barrels of rye and crates of glassware the priest insists will sell beyond belief in markets eager for fragile novelty. Spears retire to rafters, points wrapped in cloth to avoid accidental nostalgia. Cultural tides shift indoors as well. The priest carves a modest cross atop the main beam. Skald carefully paints Thor's hammer beside it, spiritual compromise in decorative form. Feasts still toast Odin, but save a splash of ale for the new sun god, hedging bets against heavenly exchange rates. Goat seems indifferent, provided leftovers remain equally distributed. Education changes shape. Latin letters appear on wax tablets alongside runes. Children practice both, unsure which future will grade their efforts. Elders mutter that curved letters waste space, but admit parchment traders are thriving. One clever youth copies both alphabets onto a single board, inventing dual language signage for the smithy. Sword, gladius, finds equal buyers from tradition and trend. Laws centralize. The Jarl receives a royal charter redefining his title from independent lord to regional steward. Fewer raids, more paperwork. He now adjudicates land disputes by quoting chapters rather than brandishing axes. Progress measured in pages turned. The Skald composes lament about lost spontaneity, but adds cheerful refrain acknowledging fewer funerals. Years slip by. Iron helmets rust quietly in storage. Young men dream of trading routes to Novgorod instead of glory at Lindisfarne. They learn weights, measures, and polite haggling in 3 languages. Shields become sleds for winter races down frozen slopes. Axes pivot to carpentry, shaping church beams shipped north on widened hulls. Settlement expands. Timber walls outside shrink as stone chapel walls rise within. The old Raven banner receives retirement honors. It's folded, placed in Jarl's Hall, and replaced on the longship mast by a merchant's pennant colored to match new taxes. Some glare, others shrug. Cloth still snaps lively in wind regardless of paint. The goat chews discarded tassels, judging both banners tasty in equal measure. Raid tales survive in storytelling but shift classification, from instruction manual to bedtime thrill. Children gasp at storm battles, but older listeners note moral footnotes appended about fair trade and stable economies. Priest offers parables instead. Skald counters with verses of compromise. Together, they weave narrative tapestry, less crimson, more copper gold. Despite change, harshness persists. Winters still bite. Crops still gamble versus weather. Goats never embrace discipline. Yet edges dull. Iron shoes on plows ease soil turnover. Imported grindstones sharpen scythes with fewer sparks. Wine sweetens feasts once ruled by ale. Even porridge gains spices, smuggled inside silk bolts. A dash of cinnamon redeems centuries of monotony. One evening, Elder Skald stands before hearth, voice softer. He speaks of cycles, how sea gave conquest, then commerce, Now caution. How gods adapt or fade with stories told, how axes rest while quills rise. Audience quiet, bowls cradled, contemplating horizon beyond next winter. Change, he says, is merely weather of years. Harsh, gusty, eventually settling into new climate. Night deepens, embers glow as ever. Outside, stars witness transformed fjord traffic. More merchant sails, fewer war rigs, but oars still dip. Families still wait on shore, and goats still escape fences at inconvenient times. Viking spirit hasn't vanished. It has rerouted through toll stations and church doors, forging fresh paths from familiar iron. Summer arrives with gentler sun, but the work of change accelerates. Caravans from the south appear more frequently, their ox-drawn wagons rattling along new timber roads, financed by royal decree. These merchants carry not only fabrics and spices, but also news of distant realms, kingdoms knitting themselves into sprawling networks of coin, church, and crown. In the assembly meadow, gossip now lists exchange rates alongside weather forecasts, and even the most battle-scarred veteran can recite the current price of pepper per stone. The Jarl's Hall echoes with unfamiliar languages. Latin mingles with Frankish. Traders from Rus discuss route safety along the great rivers. Itinerant monks barter manuscripts for furs and wax candles. Scribes hired from a distant monastery teach locals to keep ledgers on parchment rather than memorize notchsticks, and the scratch of quills becomes as common as the ring of hammer on iron. Skalds adapt their verses, weaving tales of epic voyages with cautionary lines about compound interest and land deeds sealed in wax. Coinage, once novelty, now rules transactions. Silver pennies, stamped with a remote king's visage, pass from palm to palm. Traders test them with whetstones, shaving thin curls of metal to prove purity. A small forge near the quay converts worn coins into ingots for reminting, melting faces and crowns into blank anticipation. Some elders grumble that value should jingle louder if it means so much, but they still count and stash each coin with care. Church bells arrive next, bronze songs cast in foreign foundries. They are hauled upriver on barges, then hauled again on sleds greased with whale oil, each journey footnoted by curses in at least 3 languages. When the largest bell is finally hoisted into its wooden frame, it tolls once, and the valley seems to pause mid-breath. The sound carries farther than any war horn, announcing a new rhythm measured in hours rather than seasons. Yet the old gods refuse quiet dismissal. Farmers still offer a pinch of grain at stone altars before planting. Fishermen mutter prayers to Ran before casting nets. On winter solstice, flames still flicker around the ancient oak on the ridge, though now a carved cross stands beside it, 2 symbols sharing sentinel duty over snow-covered fields. The priest blesses the oak in Latin, the skald in Old Norse, and the oak in silence, hosting both words without prejudice. Political tides rise along with church influence. Royal emissaries draft new laws, rolling them out like bolts of cloth nobody asked for, but everyone must tailor to fit. Collective fines replace blood feuds. Weregild tables expand to include fines for damaged trading bridges and stolen church candles. Disputes once settled by axe edge now proceed through a clerk's ledger, penciled margins holding as much force as any blade. Raiders become merchants in reverse succession. Younger generation dreams of owning warehouse stalls in Dublin or Novgorod, not raids sung by fireside boasting. Longships retrofit with higher sides and removable keels designed to carry bales of linen rather than berserkers. Even the Raven banner finds new employment, repainted with a silver coin and barley sheaf, symbol of a trading guild ready to negotiate tariffs instead of tributes. Climate complicates the equation. Summers shorten, harvests tremble under unexpected frost. Glacial winds sneak south 2 weeks early. The settlement diversifies crops. Rye joins barley, peas join beans, each hedging bets against fickle skies. A new granary rises, its stone foundation a communal investment. Nothing cements unity faster than the threat of shared hunger. During one harsh winter, sickness creeps across trade routes, arriving hidden in a merchant's cough. Fever spreads, sparing neither warrior nor monk. Healers' herbs battle shadows. Pine tar smoke fills longhouses, and prayers in 2 languages ascend together. Loss etches lines on faces young and old. Funeral pyres burn nightly along the shore, their smoke drifting out to sea, carrying names the scald promises never to forget. Survivors vow to build stone infirmary near the church and plant medicinal gardens come spring. Recovery ushers in acceleration. Building guilds form, codifying wages and training apprentices devoted to carpentry math more than heroic myth. Roadwork expands, gravel laid, drainage ditches dug, winter slush lanes upgrade to year-round arteries feeding goods inland. With better roads, market days double. Goats protest increased travel, but profit feeds their fodder troughs. Trade treaties replace longships' intimidation with clauses and signatures. The Jarl evolves into Count, his authority stamped on documents rather than shouted over shields. Disputes escalate to royal courts miles away, decided by judges quoting scriptures and toll ledgers in equal measure. The settlement, once frontier, now becomes waypoint. Less warrior outpost, more spreadsheet coordinate. Still, edge of old ethos remains. On calm evenings, retired warriors sharpen axes not for battle, but for clearing new timber. Steel catches sunset, glinting a silent nod to earlier days. Children climb decommissioned watchtowers and pretend they see raider sails on the horizon, though they know those shapes now belong to grain barges. Stories persist. They simply adapt. Tales of dragons shrinking to footnotes on dragon ships turned freighters. One autumn, a royal decree arrives stamped with 3 seals. It finalizes land taxes, standardizes coin, mandates Sunday rest, and officially outlaws private raiding under penalty of confiscated property and penance pilgrimage. The Jarl, now Count, reads it aloud in the assembly field. Some nod, some sigh, but no one raises axe in revolt. Axes are busy shaping door frames for new storehouses rather than grievances. The longhouse roof receives slate tiles imported from distant quarries. Thatch leftover becomes garden mulch. Leaks downgrade from steady drip to occasional curiosity. Goat relocates to sturdier pen, adapting grudgingly to a diet mixed with oats purchased using coin, not barter. Modernity arrives in increments small enough to ignore until they tally undeniable. By the time the eldest skald passes, his final verse acknowledges transformation. Steel rests, quill rises, storm yields to tax, yet fire still warms, and sea still calls. The settlement gathers, chanting refrain in both Old Norse and Latin, a duet bridging eras. His passing marks curtain fall on an age, though echoes linger in every timber, every rune carved as casual graffiti on boathouse beams. Night deepens, embers glow as ever. Outside, stars witness transformed fjord traffic, more merchant sails, fewer war rigs, but oars still dip, families still wait on shore, and goats still escape fences at inconvenient times. Viking spirit hasn't vanished. It has rerouted through toll stations and church doors, forging fresh paths from familiar iron. Tomorrow will arrive with its usual list of chores, but for now the longhouse is hushed beneath the soft hiss of settling snow. Between the crackle of the hearth and the distant lap of waves, the world has nothing urgent left to say. Close your eyes, traveler, good night, and may sleep come as steadily as an oar stroke on a calm sea. Tomorrow will arrive with its usual list of chores, but for now the longhouse is hushed beneath the soft hiss of settling snow. Between the crackle of the hearth and the distant lap of waves, the world has nothing urgent left to say. Close your eyes, traveler, good night, and may sleep come as steadily as an oar stroke on a calm sea.